we are going to end this show with our favorite segment of all time. And we called that segment A Take for 99, where we give you a very expensive take for a cheap price. And it could be a take that we already discussed, but we want to go into further detail, or it could be a take that we haven't discussed that we want to get off our chest right now. And Zay, if you want, you can begin.
Yeah, I think my take for 99 is that this will be Joel Embiid's last season in Philadelphia 76ers. I think the acquisition, the acquiring Paul George is the writing on the wall that they're desperate and they're trying to find anything and anyone possible to push this team to an NBA Finals, to an NBA championship, and it's just not going to happen. Joel Embiid is a system by himself, and you have to bring people around him to make those things happen. Unfortunately, Tyrese Maxey is too great of a player to play around Joel Embiid because Joel Embiid needs value. He needs to be able to score the basketball. What Joel Embiid needs around him are defensive players that can spot up and shoot and let Joel Embiid operate in the post. And that's the type of player he is. He is essentially Hakeem Olajuwon, and what Hakeem needed around him was scorers in the perimeter around him. And I just think Joel Embiid's getting sick and tired of the constant falling short and failing to meet expectations on a night in, night out basis, on season to season basis, even despite his injuries. He wants his team to play at the caliber that he plays at, and unfortunately, it's not going to happen in Philadelphia. He needs to go to a system and an organization that's going to give him what he needs, and that's him being a focal point like James Harden was when he was on Houston, and bringing guys around him to complement what he does best, and that's score the basketball. So I think it's going to be interesting what they do moving forward, but I just think Philly's at a full short once again, and Joel Embiid will ask out after this season.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're talking about a guy who has not made the Eastern Conference Finals since he's been in the league. When do we shift the blame? Not shift the blame, but shift to accountability. Because, when you look at Joel Embiid's history, there have been playoff games where he did not show up. Even with James Harden, when we shifted the blame to James Harden because he kind of went Ben Simmons mode in that game 6 against Boston. That cost them the series pretty much. I think it might have been game 7 or game 6, one of those games where he went cold in the fourth quarter. And we kind of allowed Embiid to go and walk scot-free. I mean, we talking about different mix and matches around him. The Jimmy Butler era, the James Harden era, the Ben Simmons era, and now the PG era, the Tyrese Maxey era. Last year was him and Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey played a very good playoff series against our Knicks in general, but against our Knicks in particular, was going off. We couldn't stop him off the dribble. Joel Embiid, he wasn't 100%, but he was still doing Joel Embiid things. Obviously, our grit won us that series. But you're talking about making another big move for Paul George. That move really didn't move the needle that much for me. I think the biggest acquisitions, if you ask me, the most important ones is the Caleb Martins and keeping guys like Kelly Oubre and having those depth pieces around Joel Embiid. I ain't really think they needed Paul George. But my point being is, when do we shift accountability to these players, for not showing up in the playoffs and not getting the job done, where we set up a culture where, okay, I ain't show up in the playoffs, so I'm going to request a trade. Because we see it so many times with these athletes that we can go through the list. Kevin Durant didn't show up, I'm going to request a trade. James Harden didn't show up, I'm going to request a trade. No. Why do you request a trade when you didn't show up? That's really my question. So, Zay, if you want to answer that, by all means. If not, that's my take in response to yours.
Well, that's the thing, right? Because you invest so much capital in these players, and they expecting why, these guys don't show up for whatever reason, X, Y, and Z. And these guys in every press conference in the post game, when they lost that final game, they say, "Oh my God, my team needs to do better. My team needs to do more. My team needs to do X, Y, Z," and they never take themselves accountable because they average 35, 25, and 10, whatever the hell that number is. They think, because I scored 16 today, that my team needs to pick me up. Which is true. It ain't with just one guy. Guys need to pick up on side by side, but at the same time, you can't go out to just blaming guys for your performance. And I think Joel Embiid has done that year after year after year, where he's always asking for more and more help, or he's asking for James Harden, for instance, to be who he used to be in Houston, or he's asking for Ben Simmons to do more thing, or be asking for whoever else, Tobias Harris, to score more and do whatever. Like, it's always somebody else to blame. And they're getting rid of all these players. It's going to be at a point where you have to look at yourself and like, all right, so what are you doing to make things happen? And
I mean, look at that Nuggets team that won the championship. I'm talking about a couple years ago. They had Jokic playing the best basketball of his career, won the MVP. Jamal Murray played a hell of a playoff run, and they had the 1 and 2 and the surrounding pieces, the Bruce Browns, the Christian Browns, the Jeff Greens, and they had the supporting pieces around the 2 stars that were bringing it every single night, and they went on to win. They had that foundation to me with Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid, but now it seemed like they tampered with their roster to bring in another star who can mess up some chemistry, and who knows what happens going forward.
I agree.
So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead with my take. I'm gonna bring it back to the NFL here. Zay, if I knew you was going NBA ahead of time, I would have went NBA as well, because media day, and we starting to get locked into the NBA coming in. But I'm gonna stay in the NFL, and my take for 99 is pretty much putting things in perspective, right? We all know that the NFL is a great sport, and coaching matters in the sport more than any other league. I would say coaching definitely matters in the game of football because it's a team sport, right? You got your offensive coordinator, your defensive coordinator, your head coach, your special teams, your linebackers coach, your quarterback coach, this, that, and the third. Now, what the Commanders offensive coordinator Kliff Kingsbury has been doing, right? And the Vikings defensive coordinator Brian Flores has been doing this year individually is nothing short of spectacular. Now, this take is more about us appreciating the redemption aspect of their stories. Let's not forget that Kliff Kingsbury booked a one-way flight to Thailand after he got fired by the Cardinals. Okay, he went away, booked a one-way flight. I didn't know he was coming back. Okay, and then to me, it kind of looked like a weak move. Like, you got fired, you don't want to embrace the media, like you just going to the Thailand, the farthest place from Arizona, the farthest place from America, right? And you're not even coming back. But he came back, and he came back to the collegiate game, going to USC, being a senior offensive analyst at the program, and then he made his grand return to the NFL, tasked with developing a rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels, and he has done so thus far, tapping into his strengths as an accurate thrower downfield, as a runner. And right now, you're talking about 4 touchdowns passing, 4 touchdowns rushing, and Daniels has completed 82.1% of his passes. Very efficient. Now we go to Brian Flores. He was fired as the head coach of the Dolphins despite winning 6 out of his last 7 games, right? He sued the NFL for their hiring practices, basically got humiliated by his quarterback, former quarterback in Tua, for the media to see, to try to dismiss his name as he's looking for another gig. And he had to join the Steelers staff as a special teams coordinator, I believe. And despite that, he got another opportunity with the Vikings, and their defense has been playing great football, respectfully. He completely transformed that defense that was a bottom tier defense and made it to a defense that's leading the league in sacks, 17 sacks on the year, and no opposing quarterback has had an answer for Brian Flores' defense thus far. So my take for 99 is that Kliff Kingsbury and Brian Flores is doing great, but let's acknowledge the road to redemption.
Yeah, I actually love that take a lot. I think I think both of them are gonna get a lot of head coaching looks at the end of this season, based upon what they're doing at their respective teams. I can't wait. I hope they play. Do they play against each other this year? I don't think so.
I don't believe so. That's a good question, though.
I mean, I hope I see a Commanders and Vikings. That's gonna be a chess match I would love to see between them two. I think Brian Flores, like I said, I think he's been playing like the best. He's been coaching like the best coordinator in football this season thus far. And I think Kliff Kingsbury has been doing wonders for that Commanders team. I think he's establishing everyone as a weapon on that Commanders team. And I think even McLaurin gets a lot more. He said in interviews, he said in a post-game interview, he said in recent interviews that he gets a lot more say in the offense. He has his voice is heard. and even in game adjustments and play calling, he gets a lot of acknowledgement, and that's something that he said he hasn't gotten his entire career till now. So I think that's something that's amazing. And I can't wait to see what they do for the remainder of the season and the opportunities that it opens up for them after this season, because there might be a lot of teams that may be firing the head coach that are looking for a more offensive minded coach, or a coach who is more defensively sound in Brian Flores and Kliff Kingsbury. So I think their opportunity is going to be wide open based on what happens at the end of the season. But I think right now everyone's looking at them with glossing eyes because of what they're doing on their respective teams. Two polar opposites, right? Offensive defense that both that the NFL community thought would to be taking a step back again this year, or has been horrible. And those two those two sides of the ball are now flourishing on each team. So it's kind of amazing to see.
Yeah, and that's why I was able to combine those guys. A lot of creativity went into the take, but it's just a matter of, and this is my last point, of if the NFL is ready to give Brian Flores another shot to be a head coach, because clearly he's qualified more than anybody, you can argue right now, from what he's done, not only to the Dolphins as far as, building a culture there, although he got fired from there, but transforming the Vikings defense that was the bottom of the league. So, we willing to move past that, suing the NFL and the Tua situation about him not being a good coach or calling him out or whatever. If we can move past that, he should get an opportunity to be a head coach, but will he get one is the main question. And the same thing with Kliff, will he get another opportunity as well? So yeah, that's my take. And ladies and gentlemen, that's the show.
Please like and subscribe for all the up-to-date content. You've been slinging shows left and right, slinging content left and right. Please don't miss anything. If you do, like, subscribe, leave a comment, leave a question, something you may want to answer, something you may have. All ideas are great ideas. Nothing's a dumb question.